Well, hello, you guys. How are you? Long time no see on video. As you know, we have been pretty busy with a lot of work and a lot of other stuff and a house. And people have been asking me, how are things coming along with the house? And as you can get a little peek, they're coming along. Major improvement in this room is that it's no longer red. So anyhow, we are settling in. And I didn't actually come here tonight to talk to you about the house. But I do want to acknowledge and thank all of you for your care and concern about this transition that we've been in. But what I came here to talk to you about this evening briefly is that we've had a death in the family this evening. And I'm smiling now, but I feel a little sad on the inside, but also actually, it's weird to be on the video sometimes, but actually I also have arrived readily at a place of acceptance, even though it is what some would say not a real loss. I'll say it as a loss that's felt in a profound way, because it's, for me, it speaks to a bigger picture of life than what we are accustomed to, and how we think about our family structures and how we value life. And so it is, having said that I want to share with you that our little baby mouse decided to leave the earth plane this evening, and he is quite a remarkable little teacher who came into our life this past week, quite unexpectedly, as they do, very much in the vein of a totem animal. And I will comment more about the totem animal quality of a mouse once I revisit that topic. But tonight I just want to share with you a couple of things about this mouse as we came to know him over the past week. So the other day, Alma and I were driving to the airport to pick up Oscar, and actually the day before that, I picked her up after work, and she said, "You know what, Mom, I'm thinking about a name for that mouse. What do you think about the name Fail?" And I said, "Alma, you can't name him Fail, because in Portuguese, fail means ugly." And she was just taken aback by the disappointment of finding and coming up with a name for him that had such a terrible meaning. And so anyhow, the next morning we were on our way to pick up Oscar from the airport, and I said, "You know, Alma," because I was contemplating the conversation we had the night before. I said, "You know, Alma, I was thinking about the name." And as I was doing that, I remembered a snippet from Lord of the Rings when the elf queen, I suppose that's who she is, she's the water being. I'm going to post that clip in the commentary because it's quite a wonderful, remarkable message. She comes to Frodo Baggins and she says, "Even the smallest person can change the course of the future." And actually, when that quote, that scene came to my mind's ear the other morning, I thought that's a perfect name for this little mouse. So we had decided that had he chosen to stay into his young livelihood as our creature inhabitant friend, which got many frowns, by the way, we had decided that we would call him Frodo. And anyhow, I said, well, let's not, let's wait and see if he decides to stay before we decide to name him. So we left it at that. And during the next few days, people asked me, well, Alexis, are you going to keep him? I said, well, we really don't know what he is yet, but if he's a rat, definitely not. And if he's, what else, baby squirrel or whatever, probably not. If he's a baby mole, for as much as I would like for him to live in the yard to eat the bugs, probably not. So we had also had a plan for him had he lived into his sustainable phase of life, self-sustaining phase of life, let me put it that way. Because when he came to us, I think he was about a day old, and it really was quite remarkable to watch him develop over the few days, and very much like an embryo. And every day there would be something new. So he actually did get whiskers, and his ears grew more, and he had not quite developed his coat of soft baby fur, but he was on the way. He had found his squeak, and so he did squeak and protest, and over more days he became more active and crawled out of his little box, the tiny little box nest many times. But anyhow, so we really enjoyed that process, and we were endeared to him to have this experience. But what was really speaking to me in a deep way today was when I went to feed him this afternoon, and I just held him in my hand, and I was watching his little body, and by this time he had learned how to take the milk off of the paintbrush well. He was opening his mouth in anticipation of receiving that little paintbrush tip to suck the milk off of it. And so I just sat there with him in my hand, watching him, feeling very connected to his innocence, and reviewing some of the remarks that I had made about him over the past week, such as, will I keep him? And I thought, well, if he's a little mouse, yeah, maybe we'll keep him. But if he's a rat, no, we cannot keep a rat in the house. Can we keep this? Can we keep that? And it was interesting, point of introspection for me, self-reflection, to have that opportunity to look at myself and say, well, how do I value a life? Well, if it's this, yes, this is something that's worth life. If it's a kitten that you find in a parking lot, then we should definitely rescue that. If it's a rat, we cannot keep that. If it's a snake, we definitely cannot keep that in the house. And so who am I in the whole scope of reality? Who am I to make a decision about whose life is worth saving and whose life is worth overlooking, and which lives are valuable? That was a big point of reflection. And anyhow, when it came down to collecting this little baby from a parking lot, I had a few people ask me, why would I do that? And I just don't have it in me to walk away from something that deserves as much as I deserve the opportunity to live. Who am I to take that opportunity away from another creature who has expressed its desire to live? And so anyhow, here I was having this point of reflection and watching his little tiny mouth opening and closing, taking the paintbrush, and he had become quite good at opening his mouth wider by the days. And so I was really touched by his innocence, as I said before. And then I had this feeling that he was probably not going to make it. And before I had that feeling, I was wondering about, if he dies, what purpose did he serve to come into my life for a week? And what have I learned from all of this? We say, there are no coincidences. And so anyhow, this is the real message of what I wanted to share with you. What came to me is the wisdom of nature and how Mother Earth is always there supporting us with all the resources that we need on our individual and collective journeys. And I'm watching this little mouse eat from a paintbrush, and I just felt very strongly this message. It's so easy to love, to lend a hand of grace to another living being and see them in their innocence and love them for that and provide for them in a loving way, not in a codependent way, but simply in a graciously loving way. It's really that simple. And we see those examples in nature all of the time. And we humans also depend on that loving grace from the earth to sustain our own lives. And so I just wonder sometimes, why do we humans have such a hard time with that? Why do we put up so many barriers to being loved, qualifications, worthiness? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But what I can tell you is that when we look to nature for the wisdom of symbiosis, it's readily available. The little mouse opens his mouth and says, "Feed me, mother." And without question, she does. And he makes it one more day. And each day, the love grows. And each day, the trust grows. And that is the power of love, to transform life sustainably and for the better. And I don't know, that's all I want to share with you about that. But think about it. Love really is that simple, and it really is that powerful. So, for those of you who may be wondering what is going to become of this little mouse now, well, he's getting a funeral. He's not getting a $17,000 funeral like humans do. By the way, I don't want one of those either. But he has been wrapped, shrouded, and handled with love, and he will be returned to the earth tomorrow. And we will always be thankful to little Frodo for changing the course of our lives for the better, if only but for a week. All right, good night, you guys.